Province is all over.
Okay, we call the meeting to order. It's exactly 4 o'clock. Is there anything you want to add, Josh, to the?
Nothing to add to the agenda. There will be a minor adjustment in one of the conditions for option number 2 on the final RFD, but I'll touch on it at that point.
Okay. Anything from commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
I can make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'll keep the door open.
Okay. All those in favor?
Patricia in favor.
Dallin in favor.
Tracy in favor.
Okay, thank you. That's carried. Anything in the minutes of the last meeting that needs to be looked at? If not, I'll get a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of the August 21st, 2024 meeting as presented.
Okay. All those in favor?
Patricia in favor.
Dallin, I'm in favor.
Tracy, I'm in favor.
Good, thank you, that's carried. All right, we don't have the delegation here, so I guess we can probably get into the first, oh, there's no delegation, okay. First, item is 5.1, development permit application 15048-2024.
Perfect. I'll take it from here. Thank you all for coming. So the first item here is we have a development permit application 15048-2024. The background on this application, the applicant has a 9.96 acre parcel with the following legal description. Part Northeast 205912, west of the 5th Meridian, Plan 0022787, number block, lot 5. The application is for a garden suite. There is already a principal dwelling on the property. The rationale for this decision is as follows. Garden suite means a development consisting of a portable or transportable dwelling which is occupied by a person or persons who are related through blood, marriage, or adoption to the registered owner of the lands, and for which there exists a relationship of dependency due to financial, physical, or mental incapacity, and which contains one dwelling unit, which is separate from other dwelling units or buildings, and connected to utilities and services associated with the host residence, and meets the requirements for the residents as specified within Alberta Safety Codes Act or CSA 8277 Building Code Standards. So we've deferred it to the MPC for decision. This application is consistent with those requirements as the applicant is seeking to house their father-in-law. The application was referred to Woodlands County Infrastructure Department. They had no concerns with the application. Section 22, notice of proposed development. The garden suite was advertised as a discretionary use in the local newspapers. Letters to adjacent landowners were sent out. No letters of concern were received to date. So the following is a recommended action. That the Municipal Planning Commission approve development permit 15048-2024 for garden suite / manufactured home with the following conditions. And I would like to ask, would you guys like me to read out the conditions?
No.
No, thank you. I've read through them.
Perfect.
No, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll leave that one for decision.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Given it meets all the requirements for what we're looking at for this for a garden suite, I'll make a motion that the MPC, Peter McKay, Development Officer, recommend that the MPC approve development permit 15-048-2024 for garden suite / manufactured home with the following conditions.
Good. Thank you very much. Any more discussion on that? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Tricia in favor.
Ms. Dallin, I'm in favor.
Tracy, I'm in favor.
And that motion's carried. All right, let's go to the subdivision application, 6.1.
Okay, the following is for subdivision application 2024 sub 08. Proposal and background. So this individual parcel's right across the highway on 43 here. The proposed subdivision application is to subdivide one additional parcel with a size of 3.35 acres from an existing 8.25 acre parcel on part northwest 185911 west of the 5th Meridian. Plan number 1220487, block 4, lot 1. With structures currently on each parcel, the existing shop will remain on the new parcel. The existing and proposed parcels are both located directly on where Alberta Transportation proposed a future highway bypass. This was presented in April 2014. So I do want to note that the parcel under application as specified there is a proposal from AT where Nikita?
Patricia has a question.
Question, Patricia?
No, actually, I was just waiting for him to finish, and so go ahead, and then I can jump in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I did do some further correspondence with AT. They said that they're going to conditionally support this application at this point because they don't have a timeline on when that bypass is to be constructed. However, at that time, the on-ramp will be constructed on this property in full. So they'll need to purchase this property in full at that time. So I'll go through the following land use bylaw regulations. So section 105, the property is zoned country residential restricted district. The proposed parcel conforms to the size requirements of subsection 3B, which says that the property parcel sizes should be between 1.24 and 4.94 acres. Number 4A of the section, density provisions bringing the quarter section to 34 parcels on the quarter section. This is consistent with the bylaw as the CRR districting allows for up to 80 parcels per quarter section. Section 105, subsection 7 states that all development within the country residential restricted district shall be serviced by one of the following: municipal water and sewer, or freshwater cistern and packaged wastewater disposal systems, or communal water and communal wastewater disposal systems, or a combination of all of the above. So this applicant will have to construct a access as required as part of subdivision. We referred the application out to our infrastructure department. They had no concerns other than a comment on the approach. The approach for lot 1, 3.35 acres, will need to be built to current county standards and then remove the existing approach. The approach for lot 2, 4.9 acres, is existing. Design guidelines as construction standards, section 2.0, requirements for water table, soil classification, groundwater availability tests is as follows: in accordance with the matters related subdivision development regulations 84/2022, part section 6.4b, a design guideline construction standards 2.322, water table testing is a requirement to ensure a suitable building site exists on the newly proposed 3.5 acre parcel, and this will be listed under the conditions of this approval. Water availability will also be required if the individual is to service his lots by private water means, well, in this case. The MGA subdivision development regulations, section 653 of the MGA section 7, matters related to subdivision development regulations, requires notices to be given to adjacent landowners. We did refer out to adjacent landowners. No letters were received to date. Letters and emails sent to referral agencies under section 653. No objections were received from our referral agencies. including Alberta Energy Regulator, Alberta Environment and Parks, Alberta Forestry, Fire Protection Divisions, Alberta Health Services, AltaGas Utilities, ACOGas, ACO Pipelines, Forest Alberta, Living Water School Division, Mayerthorpe District REA, Northern Gateway Public Schools, Patterson Land Consulting, TELUS, and TRL Gas Co-op. Referral was also sent to Alberta Transportation as their approval is required, as it's within 300 meters of a numbered highway. They grant approval for the subdivision authority to vary the requirements of Section 18 of the regulations. Comments are attached. Would you guys like me to read those comments?
No.
Okay.
Not Dallin.
Okay. And then we referred out to the town of Whitecourt. We note that figure 5.0 is a transportation network for the IDP. The IDP anticipates that an interchange for the future Highway 43 bypass will be constructed in the vicinity as this proposed subdivision is near a proposed interchange. We request adequate setbacks to allow for road widening if required as part of the IDP section 3.5.1 Transportation Policy C. We also note that the town water and sewer services are available in the proximity of this subdivision, so that should the subdivision developer or subsequent owners of the property wish to connect to town water and sewer services. Town involvement would be required to ensure the proper agreements are in place for the design, construction, and costs of services. The standard municipal reserves will be required as condition of approval. And we wanted to give the following recommendations. We have two recommendations given the situation that there may be a potential for an interchange. Option one, in short, is that the applicant shall connect to Whitecourt Municipal Water and Sewer, and of course that'll be at the expense of the developer. Woodlands County would have to enter into an agreement with the town of Whitecourt, and then Woodlands County would have to enter into an agreement with the developer so that he would agree to pay the costs that Whitecourt would set out for that. And that's in consideration with the bylaw stating that the CRR zoning the property has to be connected either to municipal water and sewer, or it has to have an internal packaging system or communal system. So option one is the municipal water and sewer system. Option two is that the applicant have an on-site water and sewer system, which would be either a communal wastewater system and water packaging system, or it would be a single site, so each property would have their own wastewater packaging system and cistern water for each lot. And I would like to say that if we are to go with option two, I would like to add one more condition that the applicant shall construct a communal wastewater packaging system or a cistern water and sewer system as described in section 10 subsection, or 105 subsection 7, B and C. If you have any comments, please let me know. Questions?
Question I have, given that we're subdividing an already developed parcel, the property that is currently there, their water and wastewater, how is that connected to the town sewer currently, or is that just a standalone on their own? And then I guess part two of that is, has the developer made any notion as to which way that they wanted to try to develop that end?
So the current system on the property is there's two septic systems. There's a house, so there's, to give context on the lot, there's a Quonset and a house, which is going to be detached under lot 1. That is serviced by its own septic field. It also has a water well there currently. Lot 2, which is a standalone shop, has a septic system already for the shop. The applicant has expressed some opposition to hooking into municipal wastewater and sewer servicing due to the costs, obviously. But given the situation, I wanted to defer the opportunity of options to the MPC, as I didn't think in this case it was favorable for me to recommend one option given the situation.
Just a follow-up comment on that, if they already currently have two septic systems within that, you know, that they're gonna need two septic systems, they already have a well, they have everything.
Yep.
There currently, I don't see why we would wanna put an option or force them into an option that would cause, you know, try to redevelop the wheel per se, when they already have something that's working.
So currently under the CRR zoning, it doesn't permit any other servicing system, so it has to be one of the systems outlined in the options. If we wanted to accept the current system, my recommendation would be that it is built to the current standard. So right now, we don't know what that standard, what the system's built to. That's,
Okay, just one more follow-up, I guess, kind of to that. Would there be a way, again, because this is something that's currently existing on the property, even though we're doing a subdivision and what they're doing, but it's a currently existing service. Is there a way to grandfather that currently existing service into the development so they're able to utilize what's there?
we could, typically at time of subdivision, it is best practice that the current bylaw provisions are applied to the subdivision approval. So if we're going to accept the application that the individual is following the up-to-date regulations, if you wanted to grandfather in the previous septic and sewer system, you could. It is going against the bylaw, but the municipality doesn't have an obligation to enforce their bylaw in full. So if that's something that you guys wanted to do, to allow them to use their existing septic system, we could. It is it's not consistent with the current bylaw, but it's an avenue we could. We'd have to rewrite the conditions. So it's really up to the MPC if that's a decision that you want to make.
Yeah, Patricia?
I'm just curious in regards to option 2 and kind of in line with Dave's question, or Councillor Cush's questions, but can we have the current system assessed? And based on that assessment, then go forward with a decision?
Absolutely, and that's what I would suggest. In option 2, if the applicant doesn't decide to go with municipal water, or sorry, the MPC doesn't decide to go forward with municipal water and sewer, I did outline that under the conditions that we should do an assessment prior to making a final judgment. So that, say if the current septic system is not meeting standards, the current water system's not meeting standards, obviously we need to make sure there's availability there. There's only one residence right now being fed by the wells, although there's 2 wells. We don't know if there's a viable capacity for potentially 2 residences. So I would suggest that the studies are done as outlined in option 2, and if there's no capacity there, that this individual does hook into a municipal water and sewer system. Did that answer your question, Patricia?
Yes, so essentially what I was trying to outline is just that if there's the capacity that the property owner can go ahead and use the existing systems, that would be ideal. But as you mentioned, if the systems don't meet the requirements, then I guess we'd have to go forward with a different plan.
Bruce?
Through the chair. I have some difficulty with making the applicant hook up to municipal water, especially where this property is. It could be bought up 5 years, 10 years, 15 years,
Yep.
and all that money would be wasted. If there is a working system on the property, why do we want to force him to change that? I just think it's wrong.
Okay.
And the other question is, seeing Alberta Transportation is saying eventually they're gonna buy this property.
Right.
This landowner that's doing it now knows what's happening. Are we gonna have something on title saying this is going to happen in the future? Because he could sell it to somebody else and not know about it.
Yeah. And based on conversations I've had with this gentleman, that's the situation he's in. He purchased the property without knowing. There was a caveat on title back, I believe it was in 2011, that the Alberta Transportation had put, stating that there was a portion of the property set aside for a future overpass. However, they removed it, and I don't know why they removed that caveat in particular. The The question then is, can we put a caveat on their behalf? Really, we can't. We can't put a caveat on behalf of another provincial organization. That's really up to their discretion. And through the referral process, that was something that we were hoping that they would have touched on, but they didn't feel like it was necessary at this point. Because their argument was they would need to purchase the entire lot. There's nothing in a caveat would do to help anyone. So whoever owns that property at time that they need to purchase, they'll just pay in full whatever the cost of the property is.
Go ahead, John.
So there is a water and a sewer system on both pieces of property, right? And they
Yeah,
were.
yes, on-site water and sewer, that's correct.
Okay, and they were developed at some point, I would
Yeah.
imagine, with permits.
Yeah.
So do we have design guidelines, do we know what they were approved to?
We have the development approval, which states that they should be built to building code at that time. Who they got their building codes done, or safety codes done through, it is information we could probably receive, and I'm sure the landowner probably has it. But if we don't have that information, the only way to really know is to get it re-inspected.
All right. Well, again, I'm just wondering, I mean, there's standards in place when it was developed. It
Absolutely.
should be developed to standard, right? So we should know what's there. Okay.
Tracy?
Yeah, I support the idea of just making sure that the two systems will comply, will fill the bill, as it were, and then
Okay.
not forcing them to hook up unless they're not gonna cut it.
Okay, Tracy, go ahead.
My only concern is and question is that Woodlands is protected over this, that there won't be any legal ramifications to come back when transportation wants to come and buy their land or take their land, or.
There's no, well, in terms of legal, unfortunately, I can't give a legal opinion on what it is. But right now, the approval, there's nothing on title stopping us from making a decision. AT thought it was reasonable to pull previous caveats from title stating that there was to be an interchange on the parcel. So it's my opinion that there's nothing they can do, and based on conversations with AT, they basically said in short that it's not Woodlands County's responsibility. I would suggest that when individuals are seeking, coming in and they want to know information on the property, that we're just open with them and we disclose that information, that yes, there is a proposed interchange, and then they can go to AT to get necessary materials on what that looks like. Our obligation is to say it's there if we know it's there. And we've mentioned that in our RFD today, and we're currently discussing it, so I think our obligation is met.
Thank you.
Through the chair. If we get an inspection done on the sewer system, are they gonna want it to meet today's?
Yes.
Well, that's not right, because it should be, if the system is there already and met the guidelines when it was installed, that's what it should be. Because it's not going to meet today's standards.
So, through the chair, Councillor Prestige, the sewer system that's currently servicing the shop, so we're gonna cut this parcel into two. That's likely not gonna meet today's standards because it's servicing a shop with limited capacity, right? So the new standard would be that it can service a residential dwelling at time of construction. But we should ensure that we're setting up any future landowners for success when they purchase the property. My only concern is that if these septic systems aren't constructed properly, that in the future, whoever buys the property, they're gonna be on the hook for the development.
Well, if you go buy a 20-year-old piece of property right now and it's got an existing sewer system on it, you don't have to get it inspected.
So the difference is development approval and subdivision approval. Subdivision approval, anytime you make a new lot, you have to meet today's standards. That's common practice. A development's different. So if you're purchasing a property, if you're not proposing a development at time of purchase, you wouldn't have to update anything. But if you're proposing a development, it would ultimately be triggered. Because the subdivision, they're cutting the lot in half, they would have to meet today's standards. And I don't think those standards are going to vary much, to be honest. Mainly what they're going to look at is that if there's any kind of leakage in the system, is it suitable for the capacity, in this case, say the Quonset in the house? Is it meeting the requirements to service the two structures? And is the existing one that's servicing the shop, how is it holding up? And they'll base it off of what's there today. So to answer your question, from my experience on building codes, speaking to building codes officials, not much changes overnight in what they're looking for. It's more so that if something was built incorrectly, which is a possibility, that it has to be upgraded to today's standards.
And just, I don't know, my thoughts again were on this, is there a way, we're kind of humming and hawing about approving the subdivision on, which way to go on the septic system, or are we able to bring this back with more information on, say, the capacity of those? Now, I agree, the house and the system that's there was probably built to the standard at the day to be able to deal with the waste and volume from the house, and I agree the shop probably isn't, and the new standards is based off of, your bedroom per se, or occupants of the house, and the field that's there probably does not meet that standard. I agree that would probably have to be increased or at least updated in that portion. If somebody's putting in a development, you want to make sure that your water and wastewater are handled. But as far as applying both new standards or new systems on both, especially when one is, realistically, we're just putting another fence line in there and they're really not changing the property. I wouldn't be really for having them change everything on that side, but at least on the one side, if we can try to see what the capacity is and what it looks like, we might be able to make a more informed decision.
Okay. Yeah, that's through the chair. Absolutely, that's something we can do. We can reach out to the applicant, see if he has that information. There's going to, I can't confirm that we're going to be able to get those specifications because unfortunately we're not an accredited municipality to issue the safety codes. So I don't know the probability of getting it, but we can absolutely go back and see if we can obtain that information and bring it forward. Another thing that I did want to note as well is that there are other things in play, like the MGA has changed in that time as well, and what local government should require at time of subdivision, and some of that is consistency with the Water Act. That has changed in that time from the last development approval, and that's something that's a non-negotiable. If he's not meeting those requirements, that has to be addressed at time of subdivision as per the MGA. So I do want to note that as well. I don't know what that's going to look like yet because I don't know the current state of the septic system. But I did want to mention that.
Well, I would just suggest that if he's subdividing that, the setbacks and all of those things would have to be assessed. So, because, that we would be, if we don't know what those setbacks are, we would be possibly approving this and saying, this is the condition, but then those setbacks from the subdivision wouldn't apply anymore, so.
Absolutely, and it's my opinion that the properties are going to be too small based on prior approvals we've done. I don't think they're going to meet today's septic standards, and that was one of the reasons why we had addressed under the options that they basically soup up the existing systems to meet today's standards. And I can't remember what that number is off the top of my head, but Alberta, the province of Alberta does have a standard on land size. Of course, it's based on soil type, which I don't remember the soil types off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And just, I guess, further discussion, if he's already, we'll say, find that the water and wastewater don't meet and we have to do a municipal hookup, he might end up finding that just the costs and stuff to that isn't worthwhile for doing his subdivision. We might be moving away from this. So I would like to make a motion that we postpone subdivision, where's that application number? Sorry.
Very complicated.
I'm trying to get back up to the top there. Subdivision application 2024 SUD 08 until a further study of the water and wastewater systems have been completed.
Can I add one more thing before?
Please.
Go ahead.
I do want to add one more thing. The applicant may not want to do these studies. There is a cost associated to them if he doesn't have them already. He might not want to do them. That's why typically we just put it as a condition of approval, so that what we'll do is we'll approve the application conditionally, and then if he can't maintain the conditions, there's options for him to pursue another means of sewer. In this case, it's an on-site cistern for water and an on-site sewage system, so a holding tank for sewage. That'd be the other option for him if he can't afford to do the municipal hookup, which would be the cheaper option out of the two based on our bylaw. So I do want to mention that there probably is quite a substantial cost even associated with the studies.
When we're talking study, I guess we should clarify, because we had the discussion around trying to look at the permits and the capacities and stuff that are there. If we can find that information, it should be available even through Permit Pro or something on the end. That cost there shouldn't be that much to at least look for that information to be able to give us a little bit more. And if the information's not available, it's not available and this comes back. But I think we at least owe it to the developer to see if, see the capacities of what they have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, did you get that motion, Brenda?
Well, at first you mentioned until further study of water and wastewater are provided, and then after your discussion, would it be more prudent to say after further information is provided?
That current, what we're gonna look for, from my understanding, is see what the historical safety codes were and to see if those meet today's standards.
So
Is that fair?
Motion to postpone the decision.
Until further assessment of the water and wastewater has been completed.
Or further information on those assessments are provided.
Please, yeah, that'd be good.
Is everybody clear on that motion?
Yeah, makes sense
Yeah.
to me, Dallin.
Yes.
Okay. So is there any more discussion on this item? If
There's one more thing I'd like to add. Patricia here. I'm just curious about when it comes back and the question, like you said, about it meeting today's standard, and probably it doesn't, then my question would be is what is the gap? Because it seems that you had mentioned earlier that we may have the ability and opportunity to accept this as it is and grandfather it in, as was mentioned. So if that's the case, my question would be, I guess, if it doesn't meet today's standard, what's the gap, so that we can make an informed decision based on that gap analysis?
Through the chair to Patricia, my suggestion is that if it comes back and it doesn't meet today's provincial regulations, that we do not accept that, because we're taking liability for that. If we accept that and we issue a subdivision approval that's not today's regulations, they can come back to us, and a landowner in the past and say, well, you guys approved it, so you have to pay for any damages that may have come from it, or any, say, environmental losses due to pollution with the Water Act. So that would just be my suggestion, that we don't accept liability for anything that doesn't meet standards today. They're put there for a reason, and if we're issuing anything outside of those standards, we are responsible fully for that decision.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
any more discussion? If not, I'll call a question. All those in favor of the motion?
Patricia, in favor.
This is Dallin, I'm in favor.
This is Tracy, I'm in favor.
Thank you. That motion's carried. I see we have one more motion to make, because we have no,
Make that motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Patricia in favor.
This is Dallin, I'm in favor.
Tracy, I'm in favor.
Good, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.